Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of the dance Q&A. So if you missed part 1, it's on my main channel, Natalie Danza. So I'm going to link to that channel in the description box in case you aren't subscribed there, which is unlikely because that channel is much bigger than this one. But anyway, it's on my other channel. And right now we're just going to continue with all the great dance questions that you guys have sent me. Okay, so what exercises do you recommend doing between ballet class to strengthen my body? That's a really good question. It kind of depends what your goals are, because obviously it's great to exercise in between your ballet classes, and working on things like your stamina is really good, obviously working on your strength as well, but do bear in mind that other forms of exercise, nearly all of them, are in parallel. And so when you're training in parallel, you are training slightly different muscles to when you're training in a turned out position. So do bear that in mind, because if you're strengthening, for example, your quads a lot, that's not actually going to help you when it comes to ballet, because you're going to be tempted to use your quads instead of your adductors and things like that. So it is great to work out between ballet classes, and especially doing like cardio and things, but do bear in mind that you won't be using the same muscles, so it's not a direct correlation between other types of exercise and ballet. However, that being said, if your goals aren't to, you know, have amazing ballet technique and improve your turnout and all those kinds of things, then by all means do any other kind of exercise that you like to do in between your ballet classes. For me at the moment, because I'm not 100% focused on like just ballet, I am allowing myself to do other things. So I do a Zumba class, which is just fun and it's great for kind of building up your cardio, and it means that like when you're doing things like variations which last a bit longer, or longer exercises in class, you'll find it easier and you won't be as out of breath. I really like Zumba for that. And obviously you're using your brain and your coordination, so that's always good as well for ballet. And then I really like to do some specific workouts, so that's just to keep up my general fitness. I will link to my summer workout, which is I think my latest one, just so you can get an idea of the types of things that I do. And I do try and include some turned out exercises in my own like workouts which aren't ballet, but for example, I will do like leg lifts with my legs turned out. I'll do some like back leg lifts in parallel but also turned out. So just things like that. I try and include some turned out exercises into my general fitness routine as well. But that's all I do really. Every now and again I might like go and play tennis or do a bit of sport with my family, but in general that's mainly what I do. Oh, I also do a stretch class at the gym, which is great. Obviously things like yoga and stretching, that's going to help your flexibility so much, which will be a huge advantage in ballet. So yes, things like Pilates, yoga, stretch classes, those are all amazing and great addition to your ballet classes. But just be aware of doing things like body pump classes or doing lots of weights in the gym and things like that, because if you don't mind it hindering your turnout and your ballet technique, then that's totally up to you. But I'll just say that unless you know how to do the weights so that they complement your ballet, chances are they're gonna hinder your turnout and things like that. So yeah, I don't usually do like actual stuff with weights. I usually just do stuff using my own body weight. So I really hope that helps and that it wasn't too confusing. So the next question is, what is the easiest and hardest exam and variation that you've done? So for the exam, I actually haven't done that many exams. I only did obviously my exams while I was at the conservatoire for 1 year. We had 3 exams, like 1 each term, and then just the one that I've done now, which is the RAD intermediate exam. And they were hard in different ways. For me at the time, the conservatoire exams were harder just because it was like more intense and there was like a lot of pressure put on us to do well in the exams, whereas for the RAD intermediate, the only person putting pressure on myself was me for that, which I did put myself under quite a lot of pressure. But at the same time, I haven't been dancing as much this year, so my expectations of myself were a bit lower, and so I could kind of go in and really enjoy that exam, even though I was really nervous before, but I enjoyed the experience of it. And in terms of the level, they were kind of similar. So in terms of exams, I haven't had like one really difficult one, but in terms of variations, I have let me think, I've only danced 2 variations on stage in Pointe, and one was the Gasmati variation, which I loved, and that was super difficult. And it's the thing about variations that makes them so hard is that they're just so tiring. Like, to keep up 100% energy levels and technique throughout the whole variation, I don't know if it's just me, but like I just find it so hard, and I'm absolutely like shattered at the end. And then I remember, so after that one, because the Gasmati variation has lots of jumps in it, and I remember after that one thinking like, right, the next variation that I'm going to do on stage, I'm not going to have like lots of jumps in it. So the next one that I did was the Queen of the Dryads from Don Quixote. It's the one, famous video of it is the one with Alina Samova doing it, because she has like her leg up here every time as she does like the développé, and doesn't have that many jumps in it. It's got like some ensembles and things, but that was equally as tiring. So I think that's the thing that I've learned about variations now, is just like they are all tiring. So that was the hardest, and out of the two, I love them just for different reasons. Like Gasmati's like so much more energetic, and I don't know, it's like quite free because there are all those grand jetés and things. But the Queen of the Dryads variation is maybe like it's more suited to the kind of dancer that I am, but still I need higher développés to do it properly. Oh, I've just reread the question and saw that it said easiest and hardest. Like, I can't tell you an easy one because everything in ballet is hard. Oh, that's how I feel about it anyway. Like the easiest variation that I've danced would be like the beginner ballet variations that I choreograph myself, just because I make it so that it's comfortable and enjoyable to dance, rather than like these crazy hard technique things, yeah, which are like just so difficult, and unless you're like a ballet connoisseur, you don't even realize how hard they are. So yeah, I guess the easiest one that I've danced and that I love so much is probably the White Swan variation that I made for beginners, because I just adore that music so much. And yeah, I really like the variation that I made up for that one. I'll link it in the description in case you haven't seen it. Okay, the next question is, how many pointe shoes and leotards do you have? I actually don't have that many pointe shoes at the moment, because when I moved back from Madrid, which is where I had all my pointe shoes, I literally only brought one pair with me, which was my blocks. And I think I threw away like definitely over 10, maybe like 10, 11, 12, something like that. So yes, I used to have like 13 pairs. And now I have only, oh, how many do I have now? I've got my new block balances, I've got my old block balances, I've got my Gainer Mindens, I've got a pair of bright blue ones, which are not a brand and you can't actually do pointe in them, but they were a present and it was just like fun to do a few photos in them, but I can't wear them to dance in. And I also have the really old block balances that I brought with me from Madrid, which are now painted black. So yeah, so I have 5 here. In terms of leotards, I actually don't know, a lot. I'm guessing between 10 and 20. And also the annoying thing this year is that I've had to wear just the Royal Academy of Dance black leotard every dance class. So I'm so excited next year to be able to wear all my fun leotards because I love them so much. Someone asked how tall I am. I am 5'6". Okay, the next question is, you seem to have consistent energy and motivation for your ballet training, or at least it appears so on social media. I was wondering, do you ever find yourself in a ballet rut or lacking the energy to go to class for extended periods of time? If so, how do you work through it? So I think this is a really, really good question and a really important question, because obviously what people put on social media is like the kind of positive side of things. So obviously what I don't put on social media is like when I miss a class. I mean, I'm not going to put that on social media. So the honest answer is that yes, like obviously I have times when I'm not in the mood to go to class or I'm tired, so my motivation isn't, you know, 100% flawless all the time, perfect, but I do try and give myself goals because I feel like that is the thing that really motivates me. So for example, the first year that I started ballet and I did a lot of ballet, my goal was to get really good, and then my goal ended up to being to audition for the conservatoire. Then when I was in the conservatoire, I always had motivations because we always had exams and shows and things like that, so that was like constant motivation. And then the next year I was gonna perform a variation, so that's motivation, because when you know that you've got to do it in front of people, like that's a good reason to work really hard and get good. Yeah, I did a few different performances, so that was always kind of motivating. And then this year, obviously, I've had my exam like a couple of weeks ago, so that's been my motivation this year as well, because I knew that I wanted to take that exam, and I've just been working towards that this year. So definitely having goals helps a lot. But something else that honestly has helped me is having my Instagram and having my YouTube, and it kind of makes me be able to go back and see my progress, and also because I know I'm sharing it with you guys, that kind of motivates me as well to keep going. Since I started ballet again, I've never had extended periods where I haven't wanted to do it. And maybe because as well just how my life has been, and moving back to the UK and having times when I actually haven't been able to dance. Like last summer I wasn't able to do regular classes. This summer I'm not going to be able to do regular classes either, because everything here where I'm living at the moment like shuts down over summer. That kind of makes me really hungry for classes by the time like it's September rolls around and I'm like desperate to dance again. So those things aren't like through my own choice, and obviously while I'm not dancing I'll be doing stuff myself at home, but having a break always makes you miss it and come back to it with more energy. So I don't think that you necessarily have to be dancing every single week of your life and always feeling like consistently motivated. Like, don't get me wrong as well, there were days at the conservatoire where I really didn't want to go. I was absolutely shattered. I was like, the last thing I want to do right now is dance ballet. But when you've made a commitment to do something, then I'm just the kind of person that gets up and does it. I think most of us are like that really, if you have a commitment. Yeah, but don't think that every day I like jump out of bed and I'm like, I can't wait to go to ballet. Some days I do, but some days I don't. One of those things, and this is not just about ballet but just life in general, it's always usually the thought that's worse than when you actually do it. So if there's something that you don't really want to do, just don't think about the whole thing, but just think like, all I have to do right now is get there. And you can even tell yourself, I'm just gonna go, I'm gonna take it. I've done this so many times actually. I tell myself, I'm just gonna go, I'm gonna take it easy today because I'm tired, so I'll just go, and you know, I might just stand at the back, and I'll, you know, I won't force myself to jump really high. I might not like force myself to like kick my legs up so high today or whatever. And then as soon as I'm there and the music's on, I always work hard. So I guess that's another way that I sometimes like trick myself into thinking like, oh, I'll just take it easy today, and then I never do. So I don't know if anyone else does that. But yeah, just to end that question, just don't feel bad about having breaks either. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. I know that afterwards we always think like, why did I do that? Because it's hard to get back into it. But in terms of like your mental strength and your motivation, like sometimes taking a break can be a really good thing. Okay, which ballet dancers do you look up to the most? I did talk about my favourite ballet dancers in my last ballet Q&A, but honestly I just look up to anyone who is like working hard and improving in ballet, because we all know how difficult it is, and no matter what level you start at, I think just like the dedication and the will to improve and work hard, like that's inspirational at any level. Okay, the next question is how to gain confidence to perform individually, so as in like a solo or something. I think that's a really good question. I think a good place to start is in class and making yourself like go to the front. Like obviously I don't know how your class is structured, maybe your teacher always puts you in different places, but if it's not structured, make yourself go to the front of the bar, make yourself stand at the front of the class, because that way you're not following and you're kind of getting used to being like at the front, so you're kind of on your own, even though there's other people dancing around you. You're not following anyone, you're not copying anyone else, so that'll help with your confidence, because you'll know that you can do it on your own without having to look at anyone else. And then in terms of like going on stage, don't forget that it is normal to be a little bit nervous if you're performing a solo or something. I think just remember all of the hard work that you've put in to learning this solo or this variation, and you have to trust yourself. So I think it all comes not really about like the day of performing. All of the hard work and the mental strength comes like before that, so give yourself enough time so that you feel confident and comfortable with the dance that you're going to be performing. Work really hard, practice it so that you don't even have to think about the choreography, like your body knows it without you even having to think about it. Build up lots of strength, and then when it comes to the performance, like just enjoy it. Anyone can dance on their own. If anyone can dance, they can dance on their own. So yeah, don't worry about it and take the risk, because it's a great experience to perform on your own. Another tip if you are going to do a solo is in your rehearsals, do it twice through. So like do it once, like have a sip of water for like 10 seconds and then do it again, because that's a really good way to build up strength and stamina for the show. Okay, so the next question is kind of about if you have a long break from ballet, or if you've started like what you feel like is really late. What results can an adult realistically expect when doing ballet regularly, let's say in 3 years? So I kind of already answered this question in part 1 of this dance Q&A, so as I said, go and watch the other video. But just I want to say something about the figure that you want. It's really important to try and not focus on like the physical aspects of ballet. It's so important to be thinking about like how you feel and how your body moves rather than what it looks like. I mean, that's probably really easy for me to say because I've never like had a baby, so my body has never really changed that much. It's always been kind of the same. But I would say that it will be much more productive to put your energy into thinking about improving your dancing rather than improving your figure, and it will naturally happen anyway. Ballet can look beautiful on so many different types of figures. It's not just about that old aesthetic of like the really skinny ballet dancer. And now you look at like especially the American ballet dancers, they're so strong. Like it's a very different aesthetic from like the Russian schools, for example. I think now it's just all about having a healthy body. It's not about looking a certain way. So please like don't worry about your figure. Your dancing is so much more important. Okay, do you have any tips for getting your double pirouette? I may do a video on this at some point, like a separate video. For now I do have a video on pirouettes, but I am talking about single pirouettes in that video. But if you watch that video, think about all of the things that I talk about in that video, and then for the double it is really about being able to hold that balance, that extra second, and doing 2 heads, and that is really where the double's going to come from. So practice your extra long balances and really work on getting your head nice and clean and sharp, and hopefully that will help you to achieve your doubles. I'll link the pirouette video in the description box as well. Okay, next question is, I'm 13 and I'm just starting Pointe. Do you have any advice for the newbies? Congratulations, I know that that's always so exciting when you get to start Pointe. Yes, I do, and I think I talked quite a lot about Pointe actually in starting Pointe in the last ballet Q&A, so again please go and watch that video because I talk a lot more about it. But also what I think would be really useful is to watch the Beautiful Ballet Feet on Pointe video on this channel, because I talk a lot about like weight placement and just kind of the more basic things of how your feet are gonna feel and look in the pointe shoes, and how to kind of work with the pointe shoes, because obviously it's very different from being in normal flat ballet shoes. But the first thing I'd say is just don't worry, be patient with yourself because it is very different, and just enjoy it because it's such a fun process, and also make sure that you get the right pointe shoes because that's going to help you a lot. Okay, the next question is, how long did you do ballet before starting Pointe? I also answered that in the last ballet Q&A, so please go and watch that video because I talk all about my Pointe journey and like my first lesson on Pointe and all of that. I've had a few questions about balances, and it's something that's going to be much easier to explain like while I'm actually showing you, so I am going to do a video on how to improve your balances coming soon. What was the first ballet you saw and which one made you fall in love with the art form even more? So I think that the first ballet that I saw was the Nutcracker, and obviously as a little kid like who loves Christmas anyway, the Nutcracker is just so magical, and yes, I absolutely fell in love with the Nutcracker and just with ballet in general after watching that, because it is just so magical and so special. One of the first ballets that I actually saw live was Coppelia, and so I absolutely loved that because going and actually seeing it live is like such a special experience. But then I think in terms of my overall love of ballet, it has to be Swan for me. It's just the one that, I don't know, just the music, the choreography, just the whole thing, it's just such a special ballet. And I'm very lucky because I've been to see Swan Lake at the Royal Opera House, danced by the Royal Ballet of course, and yeah, I remember like crying just how beautiful it was. So yeah, Swan Lake has a very special place in my heart. I mean, all the Tchaikovsky ballets, I absolutely adore Sleeping Beauty as well. A few people have asked how long I've been dancing for, so I'm gonna link my dance story in the description box because it is a long story, and that's a fun video because there are like photos of when I was dancing from when I was a little kid and things like that, so that video will be in the description box. Okay, so the next question is, what leotard did I wear for the exam? I wore like one of the official RAD leotards. I think it's called the Jane leotard. I bought it off Amazon, so I will link the exact leotard that I wore in the description box. Again, I had another question about, am I too old to learn ballet? I'm 21 and haven't danced since I was 8. Remember that I stopped dancing ballet when I was 9 and I started again when I was like 25, 26, so it's definitely not too late for you. I get discouraged because of my age and lack of experience. Am I too old? You're definitely not too old. Like, even if you're 80, you're not too old. I think the important thing is going to be to find a class where you feel comfortable and start from the beginning, and don't get discouraged that it will be like the basic things to begin with, but once it's really important to master them before you move on to the more complicated things. Because I think what can sometimes happen as well with ballet is like people go into a class that's too high for them and it's like so overwhelming that they're just like, I can't do it. So try and find a nice beginner's class with like a patient teacher, and yeah, don't worry. And I'm sure when you go to the class you'll see that there are people who are a lot older than you in the class, so yeah, please don't worry, be patient with yourself. Like, it takes time. Ballet is a very hard thing, so don't expect to go back and be amazing after a few weeks. Like, it's gonna take time, but you've got loads of time, you're still really young. Okay, the next question is, might be interesting for adult ballerinas who are already working. How do you treat your sore feet and legs after point work? This is gonna sound really bad, but I don't do anything specific. After point, which is usually at the end of class, and even if it's not, as I said before, I always stretch after class. Make sure that you stretch out your calves a lot, especially after point. It's really important to stretch out your calves and just all of your legs in general, obviously. I know that some people use like a ball and then like roll it under the soles of their feet. I know that that can help. It's kind of like a massage, relaxes the muscles, but honestly I don't do anything, and I'm sorry if that's really bad. I don't know if this is at all related, but always, if I can not be wearing shoes, then I'm not wearing shoes. Like at home I will never ever be in shoes. Like, I like to let my feet breathe and be free, and even things like if I'm on an aeroplane or something like that, I'll make sure that I have a clean pair of socks and I'll put them on and I'll take my shoes off. I just prefer to, like, yeah, not have my feet in shoes. And if you work in an office or something where you have to be sat at a desk all day, then you could do that as well. Like, if you don't have to be, you know, getting up and wandering around all the time, like, take a clean pair of socks and just slip your shoes off and put your socks on if you know you're going to be sat down for like an hour or 2 hours or something, because it's not good for your feet to be like always so constricted in shoes, I guess. I'm really sorry because I wish I had some better advice on that, but honestly, like, I don't really do anything. As I said, always stretch after class, and then if you can, like, go for a little walk or just do something to stretch your legs in between times, because it is like after the class is when the legs are gonna go like that, so that's why it's important to stretch. Okay, the next question is, will you be sharing your RAD results with us? Of course I will. As soon as I know, you guys will know. Okay, the next question, I would love to know what actually happens in an RAD exam. All I know is that they ring a little bell when it's time to come in. Yes, they do that. So you wait outside the exam room with your point shoes, a little towel, a bottle of water, and then they ring the bell and then you go in, and then when you walk in you'll stand in the middle in like your line of the numbers, so it's like 1 to 4, and then the examiner will say good morning or good afternoon, and then you say either good morning or good afternoon, Mr. or Mrs., whatever their name is, and the examiner will tell you where to put your things, so like you put it down at the side, and then the examiner will tell you to go to the bar, and you'll have your numbers so you know what order you have to go in. Make sure that everyone's ready, and then they'll say thank you to the pianist so the pianist can start playing, and after each exercise the examiner will say thank you, and then when she's ready for the next exercise to start she'll say thank you to the pianist, and the pianist will start playing. So it's all very, like, you know exactly what you're supposed to be doing all the time, but like for example at the bar we didn't get any breaks, so we just went like straight through the bar with no breaks at all, and then she'll ask you to come into the centre, and then she'll basically just go through all of the different centre exercises and tell you who's doing each one. If you missed my vlog of me going to Manchester for my exam, I will link it because I talk more about like what my actual exam was like and the fact that I was in with 3 boys and things like that, so I will link to that video in case you missed it. And then you have your free on shame on, which is it's like a petit allegro sequence which the examiner will tell you then and there in your exam, and obviously they won't show you because I'll be sitting down, so you have to know all the vocabulary, and they will like tell you the steps and the counts, and then you'll get one chance to practice it, and then you will do it and they'll mark you on that. So that was kind of the most nerve-wracking part of the exam for me, just because you don't know what it's going to be until you get in there. So then they will ask you what variation you're doing. You have to say variation 1 or variation 2, and then what happens, and then obviously there's a time where she'll say thank you, you can now go and put your pointe shoes on, tell you that you can have a drink of water at the specific times and things like that. The last thing that you do is the reverence. So obviously when you do the reverence, it's saying thank you as part of the dance. So obviously you always make sure that like you look at the pianist when you say thank you. You don't actually say thank you, but with your body you say thank you, and then to the examiner and thank you, and then that's it. They say thank you very much and you go. Okay guys, that is finally all the questions. So anyway, as I said, if you missed part 1 of the dance Q&A, it's on my other channel. I will have linked it in the description box along with all the other things that I've spoken about in this video. I really hope it's been helpful. Thank you so much to everyone who sent me a question. So that's it guys, I really hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!